Hello, I'll be talking to you on the issue of joint ownership. Many of us are carrying certificates, we are carrying land documents, we have joint accounts, we have joint documents for cars, for property, and so on. I want to tell you that if the name is not properly written, it is not a joint account. It's just an individual account. For example, if your document is bearing Mr. and Mrs. Kayode Nwachukwu Haruna, that document is only bearing one person's name and cannot be regarded as a joint property. It means therefore that in the event of any issue, the property belongs to only Mr. Kayode Nwachukwu Haruna. And that is why it is important we know that for legal documents and for jointly owned property, the names of the owners must be clearly written on the document. I remember for years we had issues getting money into our joint account, particularly for work that my wife for some of the works that my wife did, either for some agencies and so on. Many times the money will bounce. Eventually we discovered when the TSA came in that the reason was because her name was not on the joint account, her name was not part of the joint account name. Rather, it was only my name that was there. So anytime her name comes up in any document or in any transfer, it will bounce because she's not part of the account. So we have to open an individual account for her so that her monies can be paid into the account. And that is why it is good we take the warning. All those who are carrying documents, Mr. and Mrs., Dr. and Mrs., or Professor and Doctor, Professor and Professor, but only one person's name is there. You should know that that property, that car, that house, that account belongs to only one person. Well, there might be joint signatories, but the account belongs to only one person, and the stream of income that can enter will be from only one source. And that is why it is good to do the proper thing. Eventually, we discover that to have a joint account, it must carry the names of the 2 or 3 or whatever number of people are involved in the account. The account name must bear all the names so that if money is sent individually or transactions are to be made individually through that account, it will be accepted. Initially, our joint account was bearing Dr. and Mrs. Ojanigu Friday Ati, eventually Professor and Dr. Ojanigu Friday Ati. But when we discovered that her incomes were being blocked, in fact, for almost 9 months, her salary was stopped because it could not go into any account. So we had to go open another account for her so that her salary can be paid into that into the account. When we now opened the joint account was bearing Professor Ojanigu Friday Ati and Dr. Miriam Hassana Ati. The moment we did that, any stream of income coming from both sides is easy. Coming from both sides, we find easy entrance into the joint account. So, if you are carrying a land document, you are carrying a car document, you are carrying any property document, and you're an account you call joint account that is only bearing Mr. and Mrs., Dr. and Mrs. or whatever, but bearing only one name, that property does not belong to, that property is not a joint property. The property does not have joint ownership. All it has is just a prefix of both Mr. and Mrs., but the actual account owner, the actual property owner is the man whose names appear or the woman whose names appear on the document. So take note, if you have such issues, it is better to correct them now that it is possible to correct, because if that is not done, you will discover that all you are hoping on, that this is our joint account, this is our joint property, we own this house together, we own this property together, we own this one together, will just be nothing. Will just be nothing. So from today, go correct your documents to make sure that the document carries the legal names, not acronyms, not nicknames, but the legal names of the joint owners of the property. Thank you for listening. If this video has blessed you, I want you to like, I want you to share it. I also want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Give it wide publicity. A lot of people are living in ignorance. It is time to open their eyes. Sometimes this happens, and in the case of any eventuality, either the relations of the person whose name is on the property will claim it, and if you go to court, you cannot win because it's not a joint property. Under any legal circumstances, it is not a joint property, and that is why you must and should make sure, if you love yourself, you want to actually make it a joint property, then the two names must appear on the document. And once that is done, then the document is secured as a joint, or rather, once that is done on the document, then the property is secured as a joint property, the account is secured as a joint account, and transactions could be made of the account of the property. Thank you for listening, and please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and press the notification bell so that you'll be the first to be notified of my next video.